This is the FRC Roundtable, coming to you all the way from Minnesota. Your host team 2052 Nightcrawler presents this weekly FRC gathering where FIRST Robotics competition teams take cooperation off the field. Share your knowledge, give and get advice, solve a challenge, or celebrate what makes your team special. 3, 2, 1, go!
Welcome, everyone, to the Sunday FRC Roundtable. My name is Scott Davis. I'm a mentor with Team 2052 Nightcrawler. And tonight's Roundtable, we're going to be talking all about how people feel about the week zero they just did or the week zero that are coming up. But before we get to that, a few housekeeping notes here. So I'll go through our standard spiel. The FRC Roundtable is recorded for YouTube and Spotify. You must be 13 years or older to participate on the live call. If you're comfortable, we ask you to please share your cameras when speaking. The Roundtable is no longer exclusive to Minnesota teams. Mentors and students from all FRC teams are welcome to join us. And for more information, including our complete privacy policy, please visit team2052.com/roundtable. Normally, we do a What's on the Wiki, but I'm without a co-host tonight, so we're going to skip the What's on the Wiki topic tonight. So I think we're just going to jump right in and talk about week zero. So I know that there are a number of people on the call who were at week zero this weekend because I recognize some of the names. I'd love to have anyone who was participating in week zero or watched the week zeros just hop in, share your observations. How'd your teams do? What did you think? Anyone?
Don't everybody go at once now. Come on.
All right, Amanda, you spoke up. Let's hear it.
I knew you were going to come at me. Well, it was very, very eye-opening. There is a lot of fuel. That's my first comment. It's everywhere, and it sticks everywhere, and it goes everywhere it's not supposed to go, and it gets in your way, and you get on top of it, and it peripheralizes. That's what fuel does. Fuel likes to find the edges of the field. That's observation one. I can let others speak up, but it was fun. Blue Twilight is great hosts. Would shout out to them. And I won the raffle, their shirt.
Oh, nice.
And a giant penguin. Pelican. Flamingo. Sorry, I'm getting my animals around. Pink flamingo.
Excellent. Does anyone else have any stories to share from their week zero?
We had a week zero up in Pine River. The NMRC hosted one. Annie Mark Field is going to be our competition field for our championship event, so pretty legit field. We had 22 teams, I think, there. Unfortunately, both of mine did not make the field. We did not see any carpet. But we got a lot of work done, so that was nice. And I did get a chance to watch a few matches. Fuel everywhere. I don't know if anybody did climb, but I didn't see any climbs at all at our week zero. We had some pretty good ball shooters, though. Perham, the Otterbots, and Pequot Lakes were really dumping them in. Perham's kind of a big cube, 3-wide shooter, not low bar capable. It basically looks like a mini fridge, and they're 3-wide. I don't know, they could probably hold 40 plus, and they were dumping that out in seconds. A lot of people still dialing it in for sure, and then there was probably at least half a dozen teams like us where they were down there and they were still working on their robot for the majority of the day. But field setup actually went pretty well. It was the first time setting up, so that's always some struggle. But field setup isn't bad this year. Field reset is. If you're planning on hosting any kind of event, you better have some kind of rake. And I think FIRST just put it out. You want some corners on that rake that are 45-degree angled up so you can move them balls around and put them in a spot. We use carpet roll tubes to kind of align it because we have our carpet rolls there. So that kind of helps corral them as you're resetting. But yeah, resets is a pain. But other than that, it was an awesome event. Really good hosts. Teams got a lot out of it, I think. So that's what we did. I'll take any questions if there's any.
Jesse, can you share what your teams were struggling with, or why they didn't make the field? Is there something in particular that you think is going to be common this year for teams?
No. Our issue is we had some really high-powered builders that graduated out of the team, and we built the majority of the week 0 field. Okay. So a lot of our time spent during practice and during build season was completing that. We have 2 identical robots this year, which is the first time ever, which has actually eased things just a bit.
Wow. Yes, that surprises me because you guys have never done that before. Your robots always look very different.
2020 they were similar, but this year they are pretty much carbon copies. We just didn't have the student power to like do 2 separate designs. Kind of came up with one and went with that. But we're doing a cranberry alarm, non-turreted double barrel. Basically, okay. If that makes sense to anybody that does the RI3D stuff. But yeah, I mean, we just spent hundreds and hundreds of hours, man hours, building that field. It's labor intensive build. To set up, it's not bad, but to build, it was a lot.
Anyone else have anything to share from their weeks here that they participated in, or any that you watched, observations that you saw? Any interesting stories? Does anybody have any videos that they want to show of their robot, or photos, anything that they want to share their success so far, or things that they're struggling with? Anybody need any parts?
I'm still in our shop. I'm happy to share a robot, Amanda, Dr. B, if you feel otherwise. But
no, you can go. It's like public knowledge now.
Well, the kids have made some modifications without telling you, but
oh, did they put?
Yes, I knew. Right now. But yeah,
inside joke.
Start taking the Obamas out. But this is kind of where we sit. We're 22 trench spot, extendable hopper, turret. Electronics was a real struggle for us this year. I kind of let you into the rat's nest. But yeah, it works well though. We had a lot of success. Oh, the intake? Sure, I can show the intake. Let's start peeling some of these off. Okay. But we decided to go for a flip down style extendable hopper. We originally have the slits for a slide out, but that just kept on binding too much, and it just was an easier solution that had the same capacity for us. I'm happy to answer any questions about this spot if people have them, but
so it looks like your hoppers are on the frame, not on the bumpers, right?
Yep.
Does anybody have their static hopper walls on the bumpers? I think that's right now. That's our plan, is to have them be part of the bumpers, the part of the hopper that doesn't have to extend out beyond the frame.
That's smart, Scott. But we didn't see. I don't think I saw anybody at Blue Twilight that was taking advantage of that. And I talked with LRI, and he hadn't either, but he was waiting to see who would.
I will say that we built inconceivable bumpers this year, and they're significantly lighter than our bumpers from last year. So we currently have 8 extra pounds for a bumper weight that we're planning to leverage for hopper walls. And big thanks off to the Inconceivable folks for sharing their foam supplier, because it was, I really like the foam that we got this year.
Happy to do it. I'll also second what Jesse said, that we didn't, I think there was one climber out of the, was it Data Bits 3883 climber? I can't remember. One team climbed as far as I remember. But everybody seemed to be focusing on the fuel. And acquiring it and shooting it, and how, I think the speed of shooting was what differentiated teams a lot. And also, I think the thing that I think I mentioned this on the mentor Slack, is that the timing on the timing of the shifts is really, really hard to adjust to, and for the drive coaches and the students, and especially on, I don't know, Scott, for your event, are you going to have the lighting on the hubs to indicate the change? Because the visual cue is by far the best. It's really hard to keep managing the clock and look at the numbers and remember where you are.
I have been asked to come up with a lighting solution, and I might be able to pull that off by Saturday. We have 2 LED control systems that we use for training, and so we it's not an insurmountable hurdle for us to have that done, but no one has put forth the effort to do that yet. We did have the countdown for crescendo. And so you'd hit the button and you get a 10-second countdown. So we're planning to reuse that same system if we can get it done in time. I think it's really just going to come down to who's got the bandwidth to do that between now and Friday night when we do the setup. So I'd like to. We'll see if we actually get it done. It's good feedback to know that it's super important for the practice, the timing. I believe it. That makes a lot of sense. So you only saw one climber at the Blue Twilight Week 0, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Level 1.
Anybody watching the Week 0s across the country see anybody else climb?
Gompy did it would be level 3. They hooked on level 2 and flipped upside down, so their bumpers were over 2.
Hammerheads did the first auto climb.
Oh, auto climb, yeah. Yeah, the tricky part. So we had our parent team was working on our Week 0 field, and then they realized that one of the extra bracings they've done to support our tower up against the driver wall was going to block the April tags, and so they've had to make some adjustments to try to make the April tags visible, but also have adequate bracing back to the wall. So it'll be interesting to see if we're going to be able to use that or not. The other thing that we found is our tower wall setup is so big, we're going to have trouble fitting that into our practice space through the doors and stuff before Saturday, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if we're going to get a chance to get an auto climb working or not. Caleb and Kevin, I have those 2 photos that I took, and then I have the 2 shooting videos. Are you okay if we share those?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let me share let's figure out how to share my entire desktop. Entire screen. I want this one.
One of the shooting videos is a lot better than the other one.
Okay.
But they're both pretty good.
Here we go. All right, so I've got 2 images of the robot. Here we go. So this is image number 1. This was without our hopper walls, because our hopper walls are going to go on the bumpers, and those haven't been made yet. Caleb, you want to give a description of what we're seeing here?
Well, Kevin's also on the call.
Or Kevin.
But so yeah, we got our 4-bar intake that Kevin designed, and that then feeds into our Spindexer, which we have brushes, 2 brushes. We're still kind of iterating on this. There's some other ideas we have to get better throughput. We also added a little star wheel on top to help agitate a little bit more. And then we have a stager right after the spindexer that will shoot up into the turret. And the turret has 450 degrees of rotation. It was a pain to get the E-chain working, but it works now. And then we got an adjustable hood using those herringbone gears and a limelight up top. And then our flywheel is about 5 pounds, 6 pounds. And then on the side there, we have a L1 climber.
You undersold it a little bit. This is actually a 6-bar intake, right, Kevin?
Oh, yeah. I'm a programmer. I don't know.
And we've got these. Kevin, can you share what these roller bars are?
Yeah, so the rollers are like 3-inch. They're just like 3-inch and 2-inch tubes. Right now we're using like the thrifty, just the thrifty hubs, and then we printed little spacers, basically like adapter, to change it from like the 1.125-inch tubes to 3-inch and 2-inch. And then they have like cat's tongue, rode very nicely by like Caleb and crew, on the tubes. And then they're all coaxially, or yeah, the intake is all coaxially driven. The motors are down there by the bottom, by the pivot motors. It's driven by 2 X60s, and then the pivot is driven by 2 X44s. And then there's a 3-bore encoder on one side, the right side, and then that's the can encoder, and it tells us, absolute encoder things.
We got another photo here. Let's see what this other photo is. Well, I guess it's just from the other side, basically.
Yeah. I guess that side shows like a 3-bore encoder. That's a custom. It's like a custom 3-bore that goes on just like a max spline. It's derived from Elliot from Wild Stings design that he made like 2 years ago. We decided to improve on it because it wasn't actually designed for like a can encoder. He made like a adapter for it, but the adapter didn't work really well. So we just changed it to like a can encoder plus like a few extra like tolerance things.
And do you want to mention anything about how we're doing position on the hood? On the turret.
Yeah, it's just like it's 2 can encoders. Again, like 3-bore. So we made little custom 3-bore can encoders for hex, and then there's 2 encoders because we do something called like CRT, the Chinese remainder theorem, to figure out the position of the hood. Because like Caleb mentioned, it goes past 360, and to track where our turret is, there's some little math that happens behind the scenes. Maybe Caleb is can answer this one a little bit better, but we could track the position of our turret past 360.
Yeah, we're kind of explaining the opposite things of each other, Kevin, because you're doing all the programming stuff. We use it's kind of the Chinese remainder theorem. It's a slight derivation from that. One of our other programmers did a lot of work on it, and we just use it to initialize the position of the turret for the turret motor, so we don't have a limit switch, and we don't have to line it up before we start, so it can go from anywhere.
Before I go on, you guys were talking about the drag chain here. Pranay, are you still there at the shop? Because I would love for you to show your drag chain if you're willing to.
Yeah. How am I going to get to this?
Get to what? The drag chain?
Yes. My kids have surrounded this table with
Well,
chairs.
let me stop my share. Wait a minute. I need so that you can get full screen. There we go.
So let me get right here. So this is probably the best view I'm going to get of this. Essentially, it is just a bunch of loose energy chain, and it self-centers itself. So if I spin the turret out, it will self-rotate and and coil up. And then as it goes, it pulls what it needs in, and then comes out around again as such. Yeah. So it's a really simple solution to what we thought was a more complex problem that we're really happy with. And I believe we have a first update network pit stop that will be coming out at some point about this.
Yeah, Kevin, do you want to share any about our drag chain struggles and where we ended up and how we finally got it to work?
Yeah. So we kind of like started the season with like a Robonauts design. I guess we never really pivoted away from that, but in like I guess like the general concept. But essentially, it's like you have your central thing that wraps around, and then you do like an S loop over, and then you put your slack around your turret ring, and then as it rotates, um, there's like we started off with like a follower that would pull all the slack out, which would give us like 450 degrees rotation. Um, but then when we prototyped it, we ended up the E-chain really likes to like hit itself once it goes past 180. It like once it wraps enough, it gets to a point where so much slack is being pulled out where it basically becomes straight, while the stuff that's already wrapped around the turret is, I guess, still in a loop. I could share like the kind of CAD we had for it. Maybe that'll explain it a little bit better. But then after that, we ended up doing kind of like a more walled structure. We have no follower pulling slack, or we have no constant force spring. It's just all based on the tension that it has. Yeah, I could share this real quick. Share my screen window. So okay, let me go to a version that works. So this is like our block CAD, and has it did a little like cool sketch that simulates the E-chain wrap. So I'll pull up the rollback bar here. Whole bunch of features. Here it is. So here is it collapsed. So you could kind of see like how it wraps around. So the E-chain would be mounted to the turret here, goes around into like a little S, and then this would be a follower that gets pulled across the circle. And then you have this, which, I think I have to go to arc length. So we have this, and then we kind of simulate the E-chain wrap here. And it goes all the way back. And this is still kind of how it works right now, but instead of a follower, we have a bunch of like 16th inch polycarb walls that kind of force the E-chain to go to position. And the kind of trick with the E-chain, or if you're doing something like this, is that the whatever wall here needs to be like close to the E-chain. You can't have any like stop here, otherwise the E-chain will start to bind up. But yeah, that was our E-chain solution. It took us, we only got it done probably like Friday or Saturday. Yeah, so it took us a little bit.
Yeah, that's the original style, or a similar style to what we originally wanted to do. However, we don't have space underneath our turret to do such, and we have such little space from the edge of our turret to our frame perimeter, where we had to get a little creative, and this, we're very, very, very lucky that it worked out as well as it has.
I
Renee,
think that.
what's your
Oh, go ahead.
rotation? Sorry. What's your rotation amount?
In theory, this can do a little bit over 360. It really depends on how much space you have to overlap the E-chain. Right here. So you can overlap it more there. But we have a hard stop that's limiting it right now, just that we don't bulge out that way. But in theory, you could go pretty far. Right now, I think we're at 355. Originally, it was 370.
Amanda, I cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just going to make a comment and have Pranay weigh in. And I was curious about Jesse commenting as well, and anybody else who went to a week 0 about, how many turrets there were versus just straight shooters. I think maybe there was a predominance, my recollection of the predominance of, either single, double, and there was a triple shooter versus maybe 5 or 6 turrets. Pranay, what's your memory? Or
Yeah. There's a lot of single shooter fixed, but some of those were turrets that just they hadn't towered yet because it didn't make sense for them and they weren't at that point. But predominantly, I found it was a lot of like the big dumper archetype, large hopper to reversed shooters, like C style shooters. There was actually 2 die rotors, which I was really surprised by. I didn't think as many people were going to take a bite on that as they have.
I've got 2 videos that I can share. I've got this was the first day we had hooked up our shooter, and primarily this was just for us to figure out what our consistency was going to be. We just set the turret on the robot. It was a fixed shooter on this day. Let me figure this out. I want this screen here. Okay, there we go. Let me get this out of the way. All right, so then this one would have been at about the distance of the tower. And so we're pretty happy with the consistency of the shooter here at tower distance. And then this shooter, we calculated that this one here is about the corner. So this is about as far away as you can get. We were having some trouble with our indexer, but so it wasn't super consistent in terms of the feed rate. But we got pretty decent, pretty consistent shooting. We were very happy with that, especially on the first day of plugging in the shooter. Caleb, I know that you were doing a lot more tuning on the shooter. Anything you want to share about that?
I think we got some more tuning to do. Something that's been really nice this year that we've been doing for all of our mechanisms, because we're running closed loop on every mechanism. We're not even doing open loop on like our intake or anything. It's basically a riff off of mechanical advantages logged tunable numbers. And so for like our feed forwards, like KS and KV, and our PID values, P, we don't usually do I, and then also D, we have them show up on Elastic, and we just type in a number and hit enter, and then avoid redeploying. We should have been doing this a long time ago, but so far this season, it's been really helpful for tuning. We had some weird issues with running the shooter motors not in the correct direction. They kept fighting each other. We don't know why, because they were marked as opposed, and then we changed it to aligned, and then it started working, and then the next day it somehow reversed again. But I think we've fixed some of that. I don't know if anybody else has had problems with Talon FX followers. But other than that, I think the shooter's in an okay spot, but we're going to keep tuning it to get just faster.
I see Jeremy's on the call. Jeremy's in the chat. Jeremy, you want to pop in and say anything? It sounds like, you've got a video. Can you show that?
Yeah, if you want me to.
I'd love to. I mean, tonight's show and tell, so if you would. Jesse posted some stuff too.
1 second. I just want to try and find. I wonder if we have any decent pictures. We have a remarkably similar robot to you. We have except for we are not going under the trench. So there were last year we tried to do everything, and this year the trench was just the thing that we decided not to do. Let me try and I'm a boomer with I usually use Zoom. Let's try this. You tell me if that's not working.
It looks good.
Okay. We'll turn the audio off. So we did some super early, auto practicing at the practice field on Saturday. So this is just the 8 balls. We didn't try to do anything else. We were just trying to get, as many out of 8 as we could. And we ended up getting 7 out of 8 for now. But yeah, we're using the Rev brushes for our Spindexer. Rev came out with a brush system this year. So we are using those instead of wheels. We tried wheels, but we like the way the brushes are working. And then we have an Andy Mark turret and an Andy Mark launcher side panels, but we monkeyed with a bunch of other stuff with it. So yeah, I can try to pull up Onshape. We're new to Onshape, so this is not like fully fleshed out. We don't have every single motor in here, and we've been doing on the fly updates without actually updating the cat. If this is not helpful, someone just interrupt me and let me know. But I'm not a CAD person. I'm dangerous enough. I'm dangerous because I know some things, but I know enough to break things. That's what I've been telling the students on the team. But yeah, so we have an Andy Mark shooter that we've adapted. We actually have a new version of this that we're going to mount on Tuesday that has a hood on it. And I just finished 3D printing this. So this will run on a 3/8 inch hex shaft with ultraplanetary. So that'll drive the hood up. But anyway, yeah. And again, so like I said, we've done updates. This has wheels. We have brushes actually. But the intake pushes out the hopper. We have a L1 climb using Andy Mark climber in the box that we had. And actually, because we didn't do trench, an Andy Mark shooter plate is our kicker. So we cut out an Andy Mark shooter plate as the shooter, and then also as the kicker. So that was kind of funny. And we are using Quest Nav.
Jeremy, I was talking to Nathan on Saturday, and he was explaining your climber to us. I really like the way that your hooks fold up. Could you explain that to the group?
Yes, except they don't really work as seen here. We need the full travel distance to actually get up off the ground. So we built it like this, and we can get off the ground without the tilt bars. But with the tilt bars in their current state, we can't. But when this comes down, the tilt bars like push the hooks down, so they're stowed. So there's no motor. The motor to climb is the motor to tilt. What we're going to do on Tuesday, we cut new claws. Of course, I don't have a picture of them, but they're much smaller. Like the back end of it are smaller, so they'll be able to tilt in a shorter distance. So the tilt bars are actually going to be like not even half as big as this. I think they're only going to be like 2 inches tall, and that should be able to tilt the claws with all the travel distance that we need. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly or not.
Yeah, I really like how the idea of this like being a passive bar here, and as it comes down, it causes it to fold in. That's nice.
Imagine this, but like at the spot, way lower. Imagine this, but way lower.
Our L1 climber currently right now, we call it the birdhouse. It just sits on the side of the robot. We grab onto the last 3 inches of the pipe.
Yeah.
And then we have rubber tread that will help avoid sliding off, although we've had limited testing with mixed results.
Don't worry about this hex shaft floating in space. Don't just ignore that. Do I have anything else I have to share? Here's a picture of it on the robot. I thought I had a video of it climbing. Maybe I do. Let me make this bigger. Can I make this bigger?
The bolts are going to catch on the wood again, but it is what it is.
Yeah, we have socket head bolts in our frame right now where it bumps up. We do have a hole in our frame, in our bumpers. And this will be this. The programmers say this is auto align now. We did.
Yeah, you could just do it now.
We made this video. It didn't. But supposedly we auto align. So this is the problem. It's not getting. Yeah, it's not getting up off the ground because it needs the full travel distance for that. So, yeah.
It's interesting that so few teams climbed during week 0. I feel like there's a growing consensus that climb is not going to be a very prevalent. Is that even the right word? We're not going to see a lot of climbs in competition because a lot of teams, it's so hard. Plus, you can score if you have a quick shooter. You can score a lot of points shooting. I'm curious to know if other people are hearing the same things or think the same things.
I think looking at least some of the week 0s, and this is actually a week -1 in a way. I think climbing, if you can do it in auto and at the end in L1, that's 25 points. There were multiple matches that weren't even getting 25, let alone if your robot scores fuel. So I think if you're trying to win a match, I think there is some value in getting 25 points.
It's the RP. I mean,
you might not get the RP. I agree. I actually
climbing's all the RP. I mean, that's why you're doing it for the most part. I think it's trying to get that RP.
Yeah.
I just think a free 25 points there are robots who won't be able to score very well in the fuel or grab it or whatever. I just think a free 25 points is not something to ignore, at least in week 1. Again, that's going to be very different later on. I'm specifically talking about Duluth. I personally believe a free 25 points is very valuable without even the RP. But that's just me.
Yeah, I wonder if climbing this year is going to be like the trap was for Crescendo, where it was the stretch goal that very few people actually made.
Well, even climbing in Crescendo, people stopped going on the chain in playoffs for the most part. Like people weren't climbing; they were shooting notes until the last second. Yeah.
That's true. If it took you too long to get lined up, if your climber needed you to be very precise lining up, yeah, that's true.
Hey, Scott, I can share a video maybe if I can also be the millennial
Absolutely.
that doesn't know what he's doing.
Please go right ahead.
Share screen. Do you see that or no?
Oh, yeah.
No, not working. I'm on the Mac, which always makes it impossible to share your screen.
Yeah, you have to give permission to the browser window or whatever it is not the browser, whatever it is you're sharing. Unless it's in the browser, you have to give permission. And I don't think you can do that while you're on the meeting.
Yeah, I've got a window that I can't click that says share screen. So I'll be back when I make it happen.
Okay, awesome.
I could share one of the ones that I have, or if you just want to watch them on your own time, that's fine too.
Yeah, let's do it, Jesse.
All right, I'll do the match one here quick. How's that look for you guys?
I see it.
Is that full screen now for you guys? Yeah.
Looks good.
All right. So this is just a random match that I stepped away from the pit from working on our robots to come in here, but the notable ones are 3293. That's the Otterbots, and then there'll be some over on the Red Alliance side here. One of the real notable ones there is going to be Pequot Lakes, that are really putting intake wise and shooting wise are putting some throughput. And I'm not a person that does really good video, so just bear with me on what I try to accomplish. But autos were almost nothing for most of our week 0, which is fine. I mean, that's kind of the last step, right? Like, you got to get everything else dialed in first before you start doing autos. Matt's getting in my way. Let's start and tell you up. This is Pequot Lakes right here. Both these just hoover them up really good. Just got a cloth thing over the top, and
oh, the cloth cover is cool.
Yeah, and I think that's a 2 or 3 wide, and they can unload quick. That's Pequot shooting over there.
That must be a triple shooter.
Pequot's a triple, I think. Yep. And they just run into the balls, and it's instantly in their hopper. There's a good shot of them going. There's quite a few Everybot type of things, Everybot Kitbot type of conglomerations, and that single barreled shooter that's non-turreted. I mean, it was after seeing some of these guys go, it's like, oh man, that is slow. Accuracy may be better overall, but just the throughput on those single shooters that we saw down here. I mean, we didn't have the teams that were doing single shooters were probably low resource teams for the most part. If you have a good turreted one that you can drive around, that'd probably be a big difference. But I'll bring it back here. I'll stop sharing that. And then the last one is just kind of our week 5 update. I think I'll share that just real swift like to just kind of show you what our field looks like for our.
Jesse, you stopped your share if you didn't know that.
Yep, I'm getting back to it here.
I'm in a different share. Okay.
Yep. So this is kind of what we were up to week 5. So we did like legit field spec climbers. I'll just kind of fast forward here. That's a sticker on that screen. It's a rebuild. We did our little own thing. But for our week 0 field, we have these are all plasma cut out by the students and stuff and put together. The hub. This is Andy Mark with some wood stuff and the Andy Mark tops and Andy Mark net, Andy Mark thing. We built all the hub, cut all the polycarb out for that. The wires running through here. We got the holes and stuff drilled. It was a process. So, but this is kind of what our robots are going to look like. It's going to have a rolling floor. It's going to have an upper level of the hopper above that. Vector, kind of get them in there, and then we got some flywheels embedded into those wheels. This has the intake out on it. Granted, this is a week ago, more than a week ago now. But we just had a lot of finishing touches to do before we got ready to go out and do the real deal. Yeah. Had to rotor our bumpers. That's the first time I ever had to do that because the intake plates sit outside our frame. We got the Thrifty Bot foam, which is super nice to work with. Easy to cut and manipulate. But yeah. I'll stop now. If anybody wants to know anything, you can ask me. Try to.
I'm curious to know where people spent more time than they expected to spend this year on their building, or if you've gotten that far for programming. Where did you spend your time that you weren't expecting to spend it?
On the field build.
I think honestly, it probably was on the hopper because we had this design that we thought would be great, and then we did it, and then we redid it, and then we redid it, and we're like, okay, that's not going to work. So literally Friday night at 10:30, we were seeing out the stuff for that hopper that you saw, installed it in the pits before the first matches, and it worked great. But we didn't think it was going to be that hard to make a box to put stuff in, right?
Kevin, do you have any thoughts on where we spent more time than you had thought we would spend on our robot? You're muted, Kevin.
I guess we expected to spend a lot of time on like the turret and the Ichan and whatnot, but like the sketch I showed earlier, that was made maybe like week 2 or 3, and then we just kept prototyping and kept trying, and then we didn't get it until this week. So
After practicing on Saturday morning, we have major concerns about our intake. So that's kind of our pain point at the moment, which is why we were doing autos, because you don't, we will intake during auto, but the initial 8 balls, just trying to get something working, we didn't have to use our intake really. So yeah.
I was
just super quick. We use the AndyMark turret with exactly what they listed, the gears and everything. And we're really lucky with some really awesome programmers, but that has been much less painful. I anticipated that being the thing that we'd be working on right now. And we couldn't shoot or something like that, but definitely we really want the intake to match what we feel like we're doing on the backside kind of the robot. We want the front of it to match that.
I will say that our intake, Kevin designed this crazy intake, the 6-bar intake, and I feel like it's worked from the jump. You guys put it together and it just gobbles up the ball. I've been really impressed with our intake, and it's kind of been, you just have moved on because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing what you guys are saying, Kevin and Caleb, but it feels like the intake was one of those things that it just worked for us once we put it all together.
yeah, I think there's we just got really lucky. I don't know. We did like maybe 2 prototypes on it, on like the 6-bar version of it, and then we just sent it, and then it worked first try.
And it's crazy complicated because it's got like eight belts on it. I mean, the number of moving parts in that intake was really big.
Yeah, I mean the only hiccup with it is like one side of the intake, the gears are meshing too close for a reason that we just don't know. We think it's probably just like something wrong happened in manufacturing, but yeah.
What I think is interesting is, Kevin was really interested in making it coaxial driven to reduce the weight. He was worried it was going to be floppy. It's all 1/4-inch polycarb, but I mean, it's really with all the those pieces, and they look thin, but bolted together, it's fairly rigid. I was surprised as well how rigid it is. So it's yet to see the battlefield. It sounds like a lot of people had intakes getting broken, and it's a rough out there in the neutral zone. But one kind of thing that, since I didn't really attend a week 0, but I was really interested in seeing our robot as a trench robot. So its capacity, we're hoping for like 40 balls. But for those looking to possibly double that with a taller robot, maximizing their frame, I'm just wondering, do they have troubles with you put 40 in as one thing, but as you're trying to stuff from the bottom or you fill from the top, and I saw some that were kind of juggling them, trying to mix that pot up, trying to cram 40 pounds of balls into your robot. I wonder at what point, at the beginning of the match, there's a lot if you get out there first, but like at what point is it full enough, your robot, with those big dumper style robots? Do you spend more time trying to pick the ones around that have been perimeterized, or that's a strategy I'm kind of interested in seeing play out? Is, are you filling that each time, or can you, or is it
That's exactly why we're spending a lot of time on our intake this week. your point, when it feels like what we were finding is that once we got like 30 in or ish, getting the intake to have the power to keep them going up was definitely something we were working on. So.
Yeah, well, that was something that I noticed too. At I think it was the Blue. It might have been up at Becker, the Becker Week Zero event. That saw a couple of robots that never seemed to get more than half full. Of the big robots, the big hopper bots seemed to get never got more than half full. I suspect it was that problem too. We just start to push so much weight to push the balls up from the bottom that you just can't push anymore.
I have a video of our intaking, if I can share here. Oh, and I can't share it. I'll be right back.
Okay. Brian, did you get your Mac problem fixed? Oh, Pranay's back.
Oh, and there we go. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, from the beginning. So we are able to just sweep them up like no one's business. We're really happy with how that intake is working right now. And that's fully filled. I think our capacity is like 47 to 48 balls as a 22-inch bot. We're really happy with that. And does that stop my screen share? Yes, it does. I also have a video of us shooting now that I'm home.
I'm glad you can do that. My Mac is being angry with me.
There we go. We're not fully tuned yet. We still have a lot of work to do with our spindexer to our turret and such, but that's kind of where we're aiming right now.
So is your plan,
well, go ahead.
Is your plan to always shoot from that corner, or was that just because you didn't have enough time to tune?
Nope, we had no limelights at week 0.
Yeah. We tortured our
no
programmers and didn't give them the robot till like right then.
Got it.
So we went and we predetermined from the corner what we were going to need and just gave it some juice and let it rip. So the goal for this week is full localization and getting shooting from anywhere on the Alliance hub, and it will auto adjust, auto aim, and hopefully about 95% accuracy or so.
I was wondering if that was your strategy, because you can't knock a robot off course if there's no place to knock it. If you're in the corner, you get lined up. What does the defense
honestly
to do?
It's a lot more viable than I originally thought. And as a trench bot, we can kind of just free speed all the way down that trench, slam into the corner, and just start firing. And it was really nice.
You do have to, depending on how close you have to align or how precisely you have to align there's always fuel in the corners, always. And that can slow you down. And another, shall I say, tip, maybe not, a lot of fuel collects along the Alliance walls and goes unseen by your drivers and your drive coaches because it's just out of field of view, right? And
you're talking about straight down,
right down in front of you. And so your team might waste a lot more time going into the neutral zone and not realize they have a full supply really right there in front of them. So I would strongly encourage that tip to your drive teams. I shouldn't give our secrets away. It's not a secret. You can see it. If you look carefully at the match videos, you'll see it. It's all sitting out there for the taking right along the Alliance wall.
I watched a video today of someone who went to the official week 0, and they said that there's now sponsor panels like that go up the driver station wall a little bit. That makes that view even harder than it's ever been.
You can see it on the field profile.
Yeah.
It's like 6 inches at the bottom.
Yeah. So they said that on the real field, that's even harder than on like a makeshift field because there's even 6 inches more that you have to try and look over.
And we got beached right behind the hub and couldn't see ourselves. So there's some field of view issues. Now, granted, that was a wooden hub, not full spec, but I'm actually, for those of you who have the official, stuff, for the hub, materials for the hub, we still think there's going to be sightline issues from that. I'm still assuming that it's not much better. Don't know. So we're thinking about a camera to be able to see, honestly.
Yeah, it's hard to see it. And ours isn't official either, but pretty official. Yeah, it's hard to see especially from a couple of the driver stations. And if you're across the field behind two hubs, then you kind of have no chance. Let's see if we can.
I saw a comment someplace, and I don't remember where it was, but someone had made the comment that you can get more balls into your alliance zone by pushing them than you can by picking them up and shooting them.
Yes.
But I'm seeing a lot of head shakes.
Dozer is so effective.
Although, who were we watching on the feed today that was they were shuttling into their alliance zone, and they were probably as effective. We were not very fast as shuttlers, but at week 0. But whoever we were watching today could really throw them in there because they had a much faster and more reliable shooter than we did. Who was that, Pranay? Mechanical Advantage. Yeah, it was Mechanical Advantage. So I think that's viable if you have a really good shooter, but certainly I think the Plowbot is a very viable, will be a helpful strategy.
Yeah, if you don't have awesome offense, you can still really help your team by just going and pushing the balls to where they can be scored from. If somebody else good intake and can just stay there, you don't need a defender bot. You need a plowing. It's actually really cool.
Was there at the week 0s for you folks that attended? Was there any catastrophes with lots of balls leaving the field and knocking over scoring table monitors or anything like that? We're not sure what to expect when we host our week 0 next week in terms of trying to protect the pits or protect the scoring table.
It wasn't bad. I mean, there's a few errant ones, but it wasn't bad for us.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, we were debating on whether we were even going to put up a projector screen behind the scoring table because we definitely can't afford to have that thing get knocked over. It's not ours. We borrow one.
There were no catastrophes. I will say it was kind of fun. There were a few young spectators at the event right along the field perimeter and towards the end of matches when it wasn't so serious. Not like it was serious all day, but they were allowed to be human players with the balls that fell outside of the perimeter, so they would shoot the first little bit. So that was kind of fun way to get families involved there at the very end.
Oh, speaking of human players, how did everyone's human players do?
It's very variable, but if you've got a good human player, they can score all those balls during auto.
One thing we didn't know because it wasn't in the I guess I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think it was in the diagrams for the field for, non-official field, whatever, practice field, is that there's a cover on the top of there's a polycarb cover or some sort of cover that's over the top of the balls. They're not just open to the top. And so our human player had practiced with like a fully open top that he could just reach in and grab everything. And then all of a sudden there was this cover in place. So I don't know if that's something you all expected, but it caught us off guard. But he was still able to be pretty effective.
We've had some conversations with our human player about you're not supposed to reach in beyond a certain distance. And so technically you can only reach half the balls that are in the starting thing, but there's also no mention of a penalty if you reach beyond that line. And so you're not supposed to, but since there's no penalty for doing so, does it matter? I think we'll probably, our strategy captain is he's expecting that we will see a rules update that after week 1, when someone reaches too far, adding to that there is a foul of some type if you reach in too far. Typically for human players, there is a rule that you can't reach so far into the field or into the whatever the feeding mechanism is. But this year he said that there wasn't. No, I didn't go in the rules to verify that, but that's what he had said.
I might be mistaken, but I thought there was a Q&A question that asked about this that said that as long as the gate is closed, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I would have to be verified. I would have to be verified on that because that was like really right when the Q&A opened.
Okay.
but I feel like somewhere in the back of my head I remember something like that.
And that makes sense. That makes sense that if the gate's closed, there really is no danger realistically. And so it makes sense that you'd be allowed to do that as long as the gate is closed. But to your point, Amanda, is you really got to reach in there pretty far to get those balls out. It's not just a matter of grabbing them. I don't know if the official field has them covered for the entire way or if it's just the where the safety zone is. So with the first 12 balls out of the 24. I guess I'm gonna have to bring up the CAD and look at that.
It was like 26 inches. It's like the cover on there. We cut one out today because we're like, oh, we got practice with. I think it was the full width, which is like 31 by 26.
That would be, yeah.
So there's a little cutout that they can get in, but most of that's fully covered by polycarb.
Realistically, do you think that 2 human players shooting is the right mix? Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. The 2 or 3.
I mean, there were 2 to 3, doing it, and some were more focused in practice than others, and so the rate of shooting was variable. But I guess you'd have to ask the human player, and that segues to something else I just wanted to say is like, are there any students who are at a week 0 here who want to share their experience? Because I wasn't sure I saw a ton on the call, but anyone there?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't recognize all the names in the call here, but if we've got some students on the call besides Caleb and Kevin, Caleb and Kevin weren't at a week 0 this weekend. We were in our shop.
I have a video of our human player chucking some balls.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch, honestly. If you've got a good human player, they're fun to watch.
Which screen is this? Not that one. This one. There you go. It's just on our Instagram, but he's able to hit them very, very consistently.
Yeah, that is good.
I think when he counted, it's like, what was it, like 80% before a ton of practice.
Yeah, very consistent.
Yeah.
That's nice. Good for him.
And then while I still have my screen, I also was able to find a video that we have of the entire robot working from intake to spin decks to shoot. I think this is the right one. Yeah. This was before we found out that we were actually controlling to voltage, not to RPM, which was a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
For consistency, but I think it shows pretty decent loading at least, and what
this
that
video
would look like.
This video also shows all the balls up against the garbage station.
And I think this was either our first or second match of the day, so that wasn't something that we had really fully talked about yet.
I'm starting to run out of questions. Does anybody else on the call have anything they want to share? Any questions they want to ask?
I guess I have one. If anyone was at week 0 where there was a lot of throughput robots on one side, how bad was ball collision or around that funnel? Was that an issue that people were seeing, or was there just not enough throughput yet? I think that answers my question.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw a match where like Otterbots and Perriman, the other one that we saw in the video there, were on the same alliance because they had some huge throughput. So if they all teamed up, I don't know. It could be a mess, but
I did notice that there were some teams that had like the double barrel. I think 2220 Blue Twilight had a 254 2017 clone, good old misfire. But it looked like their balls were actually colliding outside as soon as they were shooting and just like knocking each other out, which I thought was kind of fun, interesting.
the ones that I saw that were double or triple didn't have that much of a problem. I mean, there's a few that kind of hit midair and went away, but for the most part, they were pretty good. Like the ones that I posted that one that I posted in the Slack there or in the comments there.
Hey, does there anybody know what the on the output side of the hub on the neutral zone um, is that do the balls come out at a height where you wouldn't be able to get your robot to sneak under there and fill your hopper up?
There's a rule.
That's against the rules. Yeah.
Okay, glad I asked.
They got to hit the ground. I don't think you can shoot into another robot either. You've got to have them hit the ground first.
Okay.
Yep. Good thought, though.
I think it's only leaving the hopper that the balls must contact the ground before a robot can touch them. So if they're passing, they're allowed to catch it. It's only exiting the hub, I mean, sorry.
I have a picture that I want to show of our bumper construction. We did something new this year. We did a lot of things new this year with bumpers. But one of the problems we've always had in the past, and I suspect we're not the only ones, of the corners of the bumpers being a little sloppy and not being very well reinforced. And you can do that with putting in a steel or an aluminum bracket in the corner. Screws don't ever seem to hold well for us. Let me see if I can get this image downloaded so I can share it. This is going to take a minute. If anyone else has a question, go ahead and do that while I get this image up in the air here.
I'll ask people something. Are all your drive teams set, or are you using your week 0 as a final kind of exploration of who's set in their roles? And I ask because we weren't set. We didn't get enough drive practice to make it a decided beforehand. So curious.
Our drivers are on the call. Caleb and Kevin are our drivers this year. They were our drivers last year as well, so that they had a leg up on all of the other students who tried out for the drive team, having had a full year of working together.
Have you had much drive team practice, you two?
Not since the season has started.
Okay.
Preseason, we drove a decent amount together. We drove at our off seasons, we let anybody drive through quals, and well, not anybody. They have to go through a little bit of practice, but anybody has the opportunity to. And then me and Kevin would drive playoffs, so we got practice then. And then hopefully throughout this next week. I mean, since I'm doing a lot of the programming on the bot, I'm doing a lot of the testing and choosing what the controls are, so I get kind of a good amount of practice through that. But with week 0, that'll probably be our biggest amount of practice before Duluth, and then maybe a couple simulated matches when we're running autos.
Do we have an idea of what our secondary driver will be focusing on?
Secondary driver isn't going to do a whole lot robot wise. They'll have some overrides, like make sure the hood is down before we go under the trench so we don't slice it off. And like if shoot on the move breaks or something like that, overrides that he hits and then bypasses those things. But then other than that, he'll probably act more as a coach for me. I'm the primary driver. And our drive coach will act more of a match coach in a way, interacting with other teams and also controlling or helping us know when the shifts are.
What about everybody else? What is everyone else doing for drivers?
We're still trying to determine our drive team. We have a few new freshmen to the team, and we are building a kit bot as well as a swerve drive. And so that is kind of new to us to have two bots going at the same time. And so we are trying to open up that opportunity to more drivers so that those freshmen, of course, can get that experience that they need and also get mentorship from those that have already been in the role. And so we are having our students take the driver's test and kind of doing some interviews next week for new people to join.
Megan, what team are you with?
I'm 4632 Monty Pythons.
That probably would have been a good wiki topic. We have our entire drive team selection process on the wiki. So if anyone's interested in looking for ideas on how to test their drivers, we make them take a rules test too. But then we also have a skills test for our primary driver. And Caleb, there's three things that the primary driver has to do, right?
Yeah, like in the whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
I helped write the wiki document. I should remember this.
Yeah, so there's the rules test. Anybody for any position has to do the rules test. There's a strategy discussion where like there's like a simulated like interaction with other teams like pre-match. And then there's the physical like driving test. This year it was I forgot what the name of the game was, but one of our mentors made up a game where you had to like do different cycles and try and get as many like you're attacking this one thing by staying within a square. It was fun. But it was also a pretty good metric of like control of the robot and things like that. And then those all combined together. I'm not sure how it works behind the scenes because I'm a student. I'm not a mentor, but the mentors have the final choice and who's the driver. And then beyond primary, for like secondary and human player, there's also the rules test and also strategy, but then a slightly different physical test. And usually other members of I did give in some input about how well I would work with these other people, but it's not at all like my decision, which is good because it shouldn't be on me. It should be on the mentors, and I'm not like it removes some like favoritism and things like that. But it is good to know how well like your drivers like each other. Pretty much, you can't have people arguing all the time.
And then our drivers, once the primary and secondary are determined, they get input on who's drive coach, who they think they can work well with.
The drive coach is student selected.
All right, so I found my image that I was looking to share. Oh, by the way, anyone else want to talk about primary driver? Anyone else on the call want to share how they do their primary driver if they've already selected it? I see a few other people from different teams on here.
2472, we have the tryouts for the team, and I think it's going to be the same primary and secondary driver that we had last year, with an emphasis of our backup primary and secondary being a couple of freshmen, as our main primary driver is a senior and our drive coach is a senior. So trying to make sure we're passing some of those opportunities along, but we have not had as much drive practice. It's taken us a little bit longer to put the bot together than it did last year. So we have ceded the time at the practice field more to programming to work on autos than the drive practice.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would just say that our team, being a smaller team, under 15 to 20 students, we pretty much determine hours based on seniority and experience from prior season drive team.
I'm going to start my share, but if someone else wants to give their feedback on their drive team, feel free to do that while I get my share started here. All right, so can you see that? So this is something that we've done new this year for bumpers. We mitered the corners, which gives us the most amount of surface area in order for the glue to set up. And then on a table saw, we made a box jig to cut splines. And then we put 1/4-inch plywood in the spline to reinforce that. So this has made the strongest corner to the bumper boards that we've ever had. Now, whether that holds up to competition, that's yet to be seen. Oh, and then the glue is all Gorilla Glue. So it's the foamy glue that foams up and fills all the cracks. So all of our corners have got these 3 splines cut, and then you slide in the plywood for that spline with the glue in there. You let that Gorilla Glue sit overnight, and then you take a flush cut saw, hand saw, and then you cut off your splines so they're nice and flush with the corners. So I'm eager to see how these hold up. And we can always add screws later and add plates later if we need to. But I'm really curious to know if these corners are going to hold up this year better than what we've tried in the past. But I hadn't seen anybody do anything like this before, so I thought I would share this thing that we're trying this year with the corners of our woods.
That's cool.
Yeah, we like that, Scott. You could actually put metal in there and epoxy it in there or something. If those split, you could do that same thing with a slot of metal. I think that's really
true.
Cool.
You could probably CNC some aluminum there too, and then probably would be a good idea to put like holes through it so the glue can pass through it to like hold it in place.
Yeah,
I hadn't even considered that. Although because this is plywood, I suspect this will probably hold up
a screenshot
almost as well as if we were to do aluminum in there. But certainly, like if you did something with steel,
right, it wouldn't add a lot of weight. That's actually really clever how you slotted that.
Yeah, that is clever.
I will say though that I made a box for my table saw. Once we had the bumper boards made, I then took it home and I made a box jig for my table saw. And I wish I would have just made a. Now I gotta stop my share so you guys can see my camera. Wait a minute, stop share. Where's that at? Stop sharing. I wish I would have just made a thing that sat on the bumpers that I could just run a skill saw across it. Because putting that entire bumper and shoving that whole bumper over my table saw was really kind of clunky. It would have been better if I could have just run a skill saw at a 45 over the corner. I think that would have been a lot simpler and easier to do. So if anyone's thinking, hey, we should try that, maybe figure out how to get a 45 on just a piece of plywood that you can then use as a skill saw jig. Especially if you have a little skill saw that's a cordless, and not a big 7¼ inch one that's kind of bulky and heavy. I think that would, if I do this again, I think that's what I'm going to try. But yeah, so we'll see how it works. I'm excited to try it. I hope our corners hold up better than they did last year.
Out of curiosity, what I must have missed it earlier, but what were you doing previously?
In the past, we tried to do a tongue and groove box joint or a finger joint. So we've tried to do this in the past. That invariably, well, first of all, I've been helping making bumpers since 2017, and we have yet as a team to make them the right size on the first try. And so this is really hard to
Julia when we need to hear this.
To make a finger joint. And then when you make it and you make it wrong, then you're like, I'm not doing that again. So that's the hard part about the finger joints, is that it can be tricky if you don't have the right setup, and we didn't to do that well. So the splines are actually really simple, because if you can just make a groove, you can just pound in the plywood and glue them. And so it's a lot simpler than the finger joint, and probably just as strong. The mitered 45 on the corners gives you more gluing surface, but also you got to be really precise in your cuts. I think that last year, because we didn't think there would be a lot of high impact, not a lot of contact, I think we just did a lap joint, and then we reinforced in the corner with some metal brackets. So we've tried a lot of different things. This is, so far, it's the sturdiest. Again, we haven't had any like impacts, so we don't know how well it's going to hold up. But I'm intrigued to have this spline, this plywood spline in the corner. I think is going to work better than anything we've done in the last couple of years. All right. Well, we made it. It's 8:25. So I think let's do a final call here. Anybody have anything else they want to chat about, or questions they want to ask, or stories they want to share before we call it a night? I will say that we do not have a topic for next week, and I don't want to do this topic again of what did we learn from week 0. So if no one signs up, I might just cancel next week's meeting because we're going to be exhausted from having run our week 0. And I don't know that we're going to have anything new to discuss. So anyone who's out there, if you have been thinking, hey, this would be a good topic and you're willing to host the conversation next week, we will definitely have a call because then I won't have to lead the conversation. But I'll warn everybody now, if no one signs up to host next week, we may just take the week off and give everybody a break before we head to Duluth. Because I know a lot of the folks on the call here are going to be in Duluth for week 1. So, all right, last call. Anybody else have anything they want to share before we call it a night?
No, I just want to thank everybody for sharing their pictures and robots.
Yeah,
That was
this is
very
great.
cool.
Also, I'm going to send an email out on this too, but I mentioned this last week. I really want week 3, week 4, once the dust kind of settles here, I'd really like to have a session of show me your CAD. And so if your team feels really excited about the CAD work you've done, you want to highlight some of your students that have probably put in more work than anyone else on your team to show the CAD that they've created, I'd really love to have several teams come and be willing to share some of the nitty gritty of their CAD, maybe how they where they struggled to fit things in the right places. We all know this is a really tiny robot frame. 2.5 inches smaller doesn't sound like all that much until you put it together and realize that it's a tiny bot. I think it would be a great conversation, and I'd love to have some of our CAD students from different teams show off all their work, because we all know that CAD's a ton of work and it just kind of gets buried after the robot gets built and everybody focuses on the robot and doesn't go back and admire how beautiful the CAD is. So I'm going to send out an email on that soon, looking for teams willing to volunteer. If we can get 3 or 4 teams willing to share their CAD, I would like to do that. All right. Well, with that, I want to thank everybody for attending tonight and might see you next week. Otherwise, we will definitely see you after week 1. And that topic is known. We're going to learn what we learned from week 1 with everybody with their fully functional robot. And we're going to do sort of a debrief and a breakdown of how week 1 went. All right, everyone. Have a great night. And I will see you next time. Bye.
That's it for this week's FRC Roundtable. Join us live all season long, every Sunday night. Visit the website at team2052.com/roundtable to sign up for weekly invites. In the meantime, keep building, keep learning, and we'll see you next week.